Earnings season is very much upon us here, and I thought we would take a look at ExxonMobil. It's an important stock. It's an important stock in an important sector, in one of the few sectors that we think has potentially still a lot of upside this year. That's our view. And with that in mind, let's have a look at it. In fact, before we even look at the chart, let's have a quick reminder of when things are happening. So if this is correct here, it looks like it's Friday the 26th of April, so that's this Friday. This company is set to report earnings. And obviously, I don't have to tell you, it's a big name. It's an important name. It's an important name not just for the energy sector, but broadly speaking. And so when we look at a stock like this, it's only reasonable, we feel, for people to ask themselves what to do. Now, what I'll tell you is that ExxonMobil, essentially they've made I think, a very good transition from what basically was, a typical sort of energy company. Some would argue a little bit, on the sort of not very ESG friendly side. That's not a view in any other sense than just telling you kind of that's how historically they've operated. However, the stock looks very interesting here going forward. And again, I think there's a lot of things they're doing right from a fundamental, from a structural perspective, from a secular perspective. So let's have a look at it also on the charts, because I think ultimately that's what kind of tells the picture. You can see it's basically a stock that has been consolidating essentially above its previous all-time highs since, let's call it, about a year and a quarter. Let's call it that. And then, of course, along with the broader market, this stock just absolutely ripped higher from the low end of its trading range to the very upper end of its trading range. So call that, roughly, 25% move over the course of a few months. Now, the question is where from here? Well, typically when you get to a sort of high like that, a previous high or the upper end of the range, and traveling there nonstop right from the low end of the range, which is what this stock has done. So it's gone from the low end of the range to the upper end of the range right away. In fact, it overshot. Typically, it doesn't break out without consolidation. And so this is, to me, a very classic case of a stock that got very long in the tooth. Again, you can see it broke above previous resistance. Everyone got happy. The algos loved it until they decided to, no longer play ball. Now, of course, the question is, how far does the stock have to pull back before it becomes a buy again? And this now becomes a question of time frame. So from an investing perspective, if I'm bullish on the stock, I may not care that much about the upcoming earnings report, and I would be happy that the stock has pulled back a little bit here, not much, 4 or 5%, mosquito on an elephant's ass. But nonetheless, it's not at the all-time high, so from that perspective, it's kind of good. Could it go down another 5-10%? Of course it could, but in the long term, that may not matter so much from an investment perspective. For those people trying to really thread the needle, though, what's interesting here is that we could certainly get good news out of the company. Stock could explode higher. It's possible. But at least in my experience, waiting for the earnings report to sort of pass is typically a better experience. So if the stock were to go a bit lower, maybe then from a trading perspective, if I like the long-term view, I buy some. If it just blows higher, again, depends how much, of course. If it blows 15% higher, it may be overbought already. But if it continues from here, then maybe this is an opportunity from a trading perspective. If it goes higher, then one could say check back, and it's back, and it's ready to move back up. So again, depending on the time frame, either way, from a trading perspective, for me, not a stock I'm going to touch right now. I want to wait for earnings. From an investment perspective, I have plenty of energy exposure, so I don't need to buy this stock. But I certainly am looking at it if the stock were to go a bit lower. Still, from an investment perspective, just me, it's not advice, would certainly look at this one from the long side as an individual trade or investment as well. Hope it helps, and I'll see you in the next video.